into here. But the one thing I don't like to do is ask redundant questions like, well, tell me how you first got into the business. That's because I figure that's the type of questions that have been asked a million times.
Yes.
I'm interested, but if it comes organically in the conversation, then it'll come out, I would think. But so here's what I wanted to start off here with you, because apart from normal, that's my introduction to you. But when I started looking into your background here, some things that come across here that I was actually really curious about the roles of you selected here, because the thing is that when I saw the amount of auditions that you put up on your channel, and then the various little skits I think you would do as well that I see you upload here. The one thing I've noticed with the films that have come across that you have done, there's a consistency about your personality that I see in each one of those characters that you play. So what was interesting for me to want to bring that up is because when I saw, so for example, in the email, because I mistakenly put Suzanne instead of Susanna, and the way that you had brought that to my attention, I saw that same personality in all the other characters that you have portrayed in the film too. And I was like, okay, that's what I see the connection in as far as how you go about with your portrayal of certain characters. I'm sure some are more challenging than others, of course, but so I guess the first question I really want to ask is because obviously, you get an audition for stuff, and you can, in whatever it is you want to audition for, you hope you get, and then you work with what you can work with what they're giving you here. But because of the roles that I've seen you play here, and I'll go into a few of them here in a minute, but the roles that I've seen you come across here, there has always a consistency about your personality that I see in virtually every one of these characters. I actually wonder if that was intentional or if it just happened to be organic in that process where you have selected or go through an audition process and you realize this character I can connect with, therefore I'm going to audition for that. So I'm curious to see how that process is like for yourself in that respect.
So I have a question. I don't know what you mean. What personality trait do you see?
Okay, so I guess I forgot to point out the films that I'm referring to. So for example, like Normal, and then Fast and Serious, Engagement Full is what a film I came across on your channel, and then the TV show or a little short skit called Connected. So I guess because there's a consistency about your. So, for example, like right now, the way that you are asking the question, it's going to be hard for me to pinpoint what I'm referring to here because I know what I mean by the question, but it's I guess the best way I could describe it is that to me, you come across that you have a very direct personality where you
assertive.
That's exactly. You're very right. So you're very assertive, but you're also very what's another thing that I've noticed here too, that you have a sense of humor about yourself as well too, that you interject in some moments in these characters that I see you play. But then when I see, for example, like there's a video that I have to come across here too, where it was like a 30-minute video of various people saying happy birthday to your mother.
Oh yeah.
So the reason I'm bringing that up here is because that particular video, because you obviously are in it as well too, but the various people that you know, that your family know about, saying thank you to your mother for the various things that she's done for them in their lives. But for when I saw that video after I had seen them, because I saw that video after I saw Fast and Serious, and then I saw Engagement Full beforehand, obviously Normal. Mm-hmm. For some reason, when I saw that video, that was a part of me that I'm wondering if a lot of me have to do with you going around and getting to everybody, say, hey, can you please say a thank you to my mother? And then you're going to compile it together for your mother to see that everyone out there had these wonderful things to say about her. So the way that I notice how you approach things is that you're very considerate as well too, which I saw a lot of the same characteristics in the characters you play as well. So it's kind of a convoluted way for me of looking at it, but I did notice those little finer details in how you go about with certain characters. So the original question was that if when those characters that you have gone for to audition or possibly even offered to you, if that was something that you had decided on organically, or if it just turned out that way, they happen to be characters that more or less fit your personality.
That's a great question. So I get what you're saying now. And I think that I get a lot of different kinds of auditions, but right. I think since that's easier for me to play or more natural, I probably book the more jobs that have characters like that because right. It comes more natural. And I'm not like, if I'm playing a more passive character or someone who's a little more timid or quiet, I have to try harder and like act more because it's not coming naturally. So I think maybe people who are more naturally like that tend to book those roles, or maybe I don't get as far in the audition process. I'm trying to think if I've played like shy character. Like my first theater role in high school was Betty Rizzo, who's like notoriously
Yeah.
bitchy and like
Yeah.
assertive and strong. And I think, yeah, like I don't know if I've ever played someone really timid. Leah in Normal was actually really challenging for me because
Mm.
Mergendra, the director, kept saying like, pull back. She's more reserved. Like she was a more reserved, way more
Mm.
reserved than I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tricky.
So when you're looking at because that's the part that I'm actually curious about with you because when I see because the roles that I see like so I'm gonna point out for an example like with Connected because I happen to come across that because when I was doing because here's what I like to do. I like to do as much research as I can to get a feel for what you've done, from when you may have started as far as I can get to, with the short span of time that I did have. But for example, like Connected, I'm not sure of your background here, but the character that you play in that skit or the short episodes here is Hispanic, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of things about the way that because again, this is what I'm talking because I'm watching you speak and how you conduct yourself. I see a lot of the similarities as well too, where the only part that I remember specifically where there was a bit of like a where you're holding back, at least with the character you play, was when the two um, Caucasian characters were asking you, "What do you do for a living?" And then you're coming up with things to say
Oh, yeah.
to be very direct and almost like tell them to fuck off in a lot of ways. And then then it was just this is what I do to try to more or less alleviate the tension, and then it kind of escalated from there. But when I saw you play that role, again, I seriously looked at it like that's to my impression is that that's the type of thing that you would actually probably would do in real life. Maybe to not that extent to a certain degree, but something more close to that, I would think. And that was more or less a way for you to be able to express like under these circumstances, this is what I would like to say. So I think that character, in my opinion, gave you the opportunity to express some sort of like angst, if you will, about person that would talk to you in that situation. So is that kind of a fair assessment to make in that regard?
Yeah, I'm really impressed by your research and like you drawing those connections because I can be confrontational, I guess, or if someone asks a dumb question, like
Yeah.
I mean, but actually, I don't think that's a dumb question. What do you do for a living? I think that's
Right.
polite. And like, those people are obviously just trying to make conversation or small talk, but she,
Well, I mean, the characters were clearly being condescending with you guys, so there was that reason behind all that for you to
exactly.
respond that way.
Yeah,
So
if
like,
someone's
yeah,
doing it with that attitude, it's
right,
like, I can give it back to you, the
yeah.
attitude. But so that's funny. Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment for sure.
So here's what I'm actually curious about with you because you talked about something just when you talked about playing the character of Rizzo in one of your first acting gigs. Um, I'm actually kind of curious about the. It's going to be kind of weird for me to ask this, but the ranges you have, and what I mean by that is this. So, with the exception of Normal, where the character that you play in there, Leah, who is much more reserved, but is obviously a lot of things building up inside of her. But when it comes to having for you to be able to take on a role, I mean, are you much more of a are you comfortable taking on roles that are out of your comfort zone, or do you prefer starting off slow and then letting that build up for yourself to the point where once I get past through these type of roles, then I'm going to be able to graduate to go on to these other more challenging roles because I've had the experience to be able to understand what it takes to prepare for said role.
I'm definitely open to all roles now. I think when you're starting off, you kind of book stuff that's more close to you
Mm,
because they're looking like if you're not a name actor, then they're not going to think of you for stuff that
right.
it's just closer to your natural essence. I think at least that's been my experience. Like, and I also don't. I guess maybe my type and like the stuff I have on my reel, I don't get certain type auditions at all. Even like, um, it's hard to describe, but like I think I have a type, and then so I'm getting auditions that are that type, and then I'm
Mm,
booking more that are that type. And so, but it's not that I'm not open to it or would like to be challenged. Like I love acting in general and anything that's a challenge or like exploring different kind of personality or is half the fun, you know?
Right. Well, the reason I'm bringing this up here is because so this actually caught my attention because I was looking through your channel, and there's one audition that really caught my attention, which was it says on there the audition for the offer for a character by the name of Chloe, which I don't remember her being in the show. But I'm bringing that up here is because when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is something I've never seen you do in the other roles that I have come across here. I mean, maybe to an extent, maybe with Leah, but with that specific audition, with that tape that you had, I would imagine you sent in, seeing that, I was like, I actually thought you did really good with that emotional depth with the character, but but I was wondering if a lot of it has to do with you having to really get to that point because you're used to playing a character, more or less yourself to a degree with the various other characters, where it's more natural for you to be able to go back and forth with the comedy beats or emotional beats that within whatever the situation may be, but it's consistent with how you're able to pull off the characters you're playing. But in that particular case here, I was actually curious about if that was actually a little bit more challenging because you're taking on something completely different than from what you're used to doing there. Or I would imagine maybe you've done plenty of auditions of that sort, but the roles you keep getting are more than the ones I'm actually talking about here. So I'm just curious about your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think originally comedy, when I first got into acting, comedy came way easier to me.
Right.
And it was a little harder to do more emotional stuff, but I've been in LA like 7 years now, and I've taken a lot of acting classes and done a million auditions like that now, where it comes to me way easier. Still, I feel like I have more of a natural knack for comedy, but I really like the emotional stuff, and that audition was easy for me, I think, because I have siblings, and it was like that strong sibling relationship. And for some reason, it was just easy for me to relate to, and it was during 2020, during the pandemic, and I got a call back for it and had a really nice chemistry read. I think it was maybe down to 2 or 3 actors for that role. And so I felt really good about it and had a good callback. But at the end of the day, they went with someone else. So, and I should probably, I don't know if all the auditions on my YouTube, I think they should be unlisted. But I've done a couple auditions lately that are way different than the roles I usually play. Like one was a trailer trash mom who's like really down on her luck and is like really lower class. And it was such a fun audition to do. And I think I did well, but I think that film's in the fall. So we'll see if I get a call back, but I like the challenge. So
what for you though, because here's the thing I'm curious about with you, because when you first started going into acting, what was your goal in mind that you had for that? Because I mean, I would imagine that to some degree, maybe it was just strictly because I love to do this, or I found something that I like to do. Or did you have what some other people may consider where if I can do this here, then I'm going to be able to make money and then be able to achieve the fame and glory to, at least something to that, to a certain stature where I can gain consistent work, but at that level. But I'm curious about, from your perspective, what it was for you about want to pursue that path here, because the fact you're going through these auditions and and I would think every answer is virtually the same, but with various differences about why they're doing it. But for yourself, what was the reason why you want to go down this path, knowing how hard it can be for someone to get a job?
Yeah, it does take a certain kind of person, like overconfidence or something, but
okay.
like it's like you hear everyone say, yeah, you have a 1 in a million shot of making it. And then you're still like, well, I'm that 1 in a million. So it's kind of delusional. But the reason I got into acting was in high school, I started doing plays, and I was playing soccer and basketball. And I always kind of like dread I'd be like, oh, I have soccer practice today. But when I started doing theater, I was never dreading the rehearsals. I was always super excited. And it was like,
okay.
I just felt like I fit in, and it came natural to me. I like finally felt like I was one of the best at something. Whereas in sports, like I was fine, but I was never like the best person on the team. So it just was good to have something that I felt like I was really good at and really enjoyed. And I thought, oh, maybe I can make this a career. And my dad was like, oh, hell no. Like, that's a cute hobby or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll minor in it in college. So I still wasn't super serious about it, but then in college, I was lucky to have like a film program, and I ended up doing a film in Portland when I was there. And I was sitting in Portland in a hot tub, like getting paid. And I was like, I think I want to do this forever. So it's just, I was like, wow, this is something I really love that I can get paid for. And I don't necessarily need to like make it huge or be famous, but like if I can make a career out of it and sustain myself doing something I love, that would be awesome. And so yeah, that was my motivation. I was just super passionate about it.
So now that you've done this for a good period of time, what's something that's changed for you about how you look at not so just yourself, I guess the overall process, you know, you're looking at yourself, how you go about it, the industry, having the dry spells, and then, you know, a moment where you're getting some momentum for the amount of work you're getting here, because, like, you know, you sent me the link for your commercial, which I did, it goes through all of them. But seeing, you know, getting that type of work, I'm not sure if at certain points, maybe you may have felt like, you know, this is fine, but I want to be doing these things instead. You know, I kind of want to run through the course so I can get to the main, you know, the finish line, if you will. So I'm wondering what you think has changed for yourself in that respect now that you've gone through the motion here.
Yeah, it's a good question. I moved to LA really wanting to do TV and film, and for some reason I hit the jackpot with commercials. Like I'm really successful when it comes to commercial work, which I'm grateful for because they pay well and they're easy and they're a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, like I have no passion for commercial acting. Like it is fun and it's a great way to make quick money, but it's not like I feel fulfilled from it. And that's not the kind of acting that it doesn't feel like challenging acting to me, like smiling and holding a product or whatever. So I think I kind of was discouraged because as much commercial success as I've had, I still get like maybe one or two television co-star auditions a year, or like one SAG film audition a year. For some reason, I'm not getting the auditions I want in TV and film. And so I'm doing like anything I can, you know, theatrically, like short films or student films, anything just to have that creative outlet. Because when the pandemic happened, I was bartending and serving. So I shifted and did a coding boot camp. So now I have a full-time coding job, so I can afford to do film and TV projects for free if it's a low budget thing, and I still can have fun with it. So I think what's shifted for me is I went into it like I'm going to make a career out of this. And now I'm like, this is still my passion, but it doesn't have to be my career. Like I don't have that need to like make a living from it now.
So do you ever feel like giving up as a result of some of those, you know, hard moments where you feel like this is not worth it right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like try to stay motivated when like I worked my ass off for 7 years. Like I would do like a commercial that paid $200 and it was a 12-hour shoot. And then I would go to an 8-hour bartending thing and I would take every little job I could get because I was just like trying to claw my way in. And it is discouraging to work. So like if I worked that hard in any other career or any other field for 7 years, I feel like I would be at the top at the end. And it's like, I worked that hard for 7 years and I'm still at the bottom. So it's definitely discouraging. And I'm not as motivated as I was when I moved to LA. I'm kind of like, meh.
Do you think because I'm curious when you said that, do you think when you say you're not as motivated, are you talking about just, you know, having to put in the extra effort to be able to find the next gig? Or is it just more about, you know, I'm just kind of tempering my anticipation more just to be realistic about the situation? By that, I mean, is that you're not expecting anything out of it. You just go in there, do the audition or expect the callback or not expect a callback. But then if you get a callback, don't expect to go any further than that. Just keep yourself level headed in that respect. So is that what you mean by the motive on keeping yourself
more
motivated?
The first thing, because my expectations have always been like, if you're right for it, you'll get it. If not, like that was kind of always my attitude. I'm more the first thing, like, you know, when I first moved here, I was like very motivated to reach out to network and to self-submit on stuff and like do a bunch of workshops and classes and like do everything I could to increase my odds of making it or like getting auditions. And now I'm just less motivated to like network and do all the actor.
I see. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I like a little burnt out is the best
I
way
see
to
what you're
say it.
saying.
I'm a little burnt out.
So here's a two-part question, and you can answer it in any order you want. But and I hope you don't mind me bringing this up here because so with, for example, like the movie Normal, I'm actually I'm hoping you are willing to answer this here because I'm really curious about your perspective on this here. But in the film, you have a nude scene, and I was when I first saw the movie, I remember thinking how that conversation was like before you shot that scene, or better yet, if you once you saw the script and you read that part, did you have questions about why is it? I mean, I'm sure you read and you understood the reasons for that, but I'm not sure if there was a certain thought process where you realized where you may have thought, is this actually really good for the story? Because maybe you have perception about how you want to present yourself in that respect, and then the conversations you have with I keep butchering his name, McGrinder, is
Yeah,
that right? Yeah, and
yeah.
having a conversation with him to understand why he put it there in the first place. I mean, seeing the scene, it made sense why you did that. Your character made a
Yeah.
lot of sense, but I would imagine that even though you understood it, you might have some reservations because once that's out there, then people will look at you. Some people, I'm not saying everybody, may look at you a certain way. We're like, hey, we saw you in that movie, we liked you. Now we want you for a role like this, and then
Hmm.
understand those stipulations that may come with said roles, if you will. So I'm curious about your perspective in having to prepare for that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. So when before I did that film, I wasn't open to nudity, and I actually self-submitted for Normal, and it was two roles that popped up for me. It was Leah and then Maggie, the nanny or
Mm-hmm.
the babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have any nudity. So I saw that Leah had nudity and the babysitter didn't. So I submitted, and at the time I was submitting to like 100 things a day. So I end up getting an audition for Maggie, the babysitter. And so I go to the audition and I read, and Merigendra was like, actually, can you read for Leah? And I was like, he was like, she's the lead. And I was like, sure. And at this point, I'd completely forgotten why I didn't submit for Leah. I thought, oh, maybe because she's older or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, sure, I'll read for the lead. Even better. So I read for it. And then I got a call back. And so I went to Burbank for the callback, and it was at an apartment. And so we're reading. And they really liked my audition. And I think they were saying that they were down to like 2 or 3 people for the role. And then that's when he brought up, he's like, by the way, there's nudity for this role. And I was like, oh yeah. And then I'm thinking, oh, that's why I didn't submit for the lead. But then he described it. He's like, it's super tasteful. It's because, and he described it how it's because,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so at that point, I don't know if he was offering me the role at that point, maybe. And like, the role is yours if you want it, if you're okay with the nudity kind of thing. And I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, well, would be the lead in a feature film. That's a great opportunity. And it's not like gratuitous nudity. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I did think about it. And it's not nudity that's just like for the male gaze or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally so other new moms can relate to the feeling of like, is it me? Am I unattractive? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
your body changes a lot. And I think that it was really cool that the nudity was so that other women in that position can relate. And so I loved that about it.
So you don't have any like regret? Well, maybe not regrets, but like second guessing. Maybe I should have not done it. Nothing like that.
No,
All since you've done it.
not at
Okay.
all. Yeah, I don't I don't. And I think that also it helps that, Europe's always kind of had this
Yeah.
more lax view of it. And I think America is getting more like that, with the shows like all the HBO stuff is like
Yeah.
helping not make it such a big deal, or like, oh, that actress did nudity, like she's not a real actor or
Right.
whatever. And so I think that's great. And then my mom actually went and saw it with me in Seattle when it was at a premiere there. And I forgot about all the like, by then it had been 2 years or something. I forgot that I was like, I mean, the nude scene's really not, if I'm watching it with my mom, that's not the part I'm like, it's the masturbation scene and the
Yeah.
sexual scenes. I'm like, this is uncomfortable. But the nudity, like my mom's seen my boobs a million times. So.
Well, I mean, what's actually your take on that note now for yourself? Because before you had reservations about it, now that you've done it, it's clearly obviously you've changed your perception about how you would like to go about it for yourself. So, and again, if someone were to come up to you and say, "Hey, we saw what you did in Normal, and we loved that role. We love what you did in that movie. We found a role that we want you to do, but it is requiring nudity, but it's a little more risque, but it's done tastefully." So if it starts to level up in that respect, where they're asking you, it's going to be asking you to do the following things here because we love what you did, but we want you to kind of expand on those areas we saw you do very well in, but for a character of this sort, but it's going to escalate the sexuality a little bit further. So if that were to be presented to you in that respect, so long as it's done for the purpose of telling a story without using you as an object, if you will, but to really do a tasteful story, do you still have reservations about how you would go about that if it were to be presented to you in that way?
Yeah, I think it all just comes down to the story and like how how that kind of nudity, or if it was sexual or whatever, how it fits into the story. Because at the end of the day, like my job is to help tell a story, and if I'm passionate about the story and that's an essential part of it, then I really have no problem with it.
Okay. So now that the film has been released at this point with Normal here, because I've been seeing some reviews that have been coming in, and a lot of them so far that I've come across have been rather positive here. But I'm actually really curious about how your perspective is when it comes to the negative reviews, because I'm sure you may have your run-ins with a few critics here and there that may have said some things about the films you've been in, whether it be at you directly or just over the overall project. But I'm wondering about, for yourself now, getting up to this part of your career, how you feel about how you deal with that for yourself, knowing that if there's a chance that I'm going to be getting more bigger opportunities, that the critiques are just going to come more, just as hard, if not harder, because of said project that has more notoriety or whatever the case may be. So I'm curious to see how your perspective on that is for yourself.
Yeah, I think as an actor, you're kind of off the hook a little when it comes to like an overall critique of a film, because like you didn't write it, you didn't edit it, like all you could do was the acting. And so luckily, I don't know if maybe I should take it more personally, but if people don't like the movie, like I do not take it personally at all. Because I just don't take it personally. Art is subjective. The movie is for a specific audience anyway. So like maybe it wasn't for them, or even if it was and they didn't like it. Yeah, I think I have just thick skin from maybe my family, but also just being in the industry. But yeah, I think if the reviews were specifically about my acting, it would hurt a little, but I would try to learn from it for sure. And it's also like, if people really were reaming my acting in the movie, I think I'd still be like, yeah, we filmed that 5 years ago. I'd probably do a better job now. Or like, I've definitely, so, yeah, I really don't take it personally.
Okay, so here's what I kind of want to delve into here with you, because so I'll be completely honest. I was actually really surprised, at least from what I can gather here with you, that because you sound to me, you strike me as somebody that would like to be very much in control with what you're doing. Because again, you have a very direct personality from what I've, from the interactions on the email and then having with this conversation with you now, that I'm surprised. I'm not sure if you have tried this before, but if you haven't, I'm actually quite surprised if that's the case. But I haven't found anything that I've come across here so far that you've either written, directed, produced, or anything of that in that capacity, because you do strike me as a person that would do something like that, considering that, those dry spells you may have that may motivate you to try other things, but maybe harder, but at least you have that creative outlet to be able to find things that would work for you and have more control over, if you will.
Yeah, it's so true. I think at the end of the day, my biggest passion is acting over writing, but I do love writing. And a friend of mine and I wrote a pilot together, a comedic pilot, and we wrote it for ourselves. I think neither of us are like motivated enough to get the funding and start working on it, but we really should. So you asked me this, it might light a fire under my butt, but no, I don't know. There's something I do really like about bringing someone else's work alive with the acting part, because I don't know, I kind of like the lack of control and being directed, and it feels more collaborative to work on.
Why is that for you though? For you to say that?
Why is what?
Why is it for you to say? Why would you say that? I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. I'm not getting that. I'm not trying to imply that here, but why would you say that you have more fun with being a part of the creative process for somebody else? Because I truly do believe that you do strike me as a person that would rather be in control of it yourself. Not saying that you're not one to work with that. That's not what I'm implying here, but because it's hard for me to believe that you would say that. Yeah, I like doing this more. I'm like, I mean, I believe you, but
yeah, I guess I don't even know because I haven't written my own stuff. So I probably would have just a black. I think maybe it either comes down to laziness or liking or like, like I don't have to, at the end of the day, I don't have to do all the editing and the producing and all that. Like all I have to do is show up and I get to just focus on the acting part.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Maybe it's that, like I just want to focus on acting, or maybe it's just being kind of lazy about it. It's probably that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, now and so then this leads me to my other question here.
Or can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
A lack of focus. It's like I used to try to write my own stuff, but I would like get halfway through one thing and then have another idea. I'd be like, I just need to focus on acting. Like it's hard enough. At the time I was thinking it's hard enough to break into acting, but if I'm doing a million other things, like trying to write all this stuff and not focusing on that. But now that I have a job, I could totally write my own thing. I just need to pick which project because I have a bunch of ideas.
So would you consider yourself to be a good multitasker then, from what you're saying? Because again, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but if you're saying that you can focus on one thing, I'm not sure if that means that you're not good at multitasking and doing other things at the same time. So that way and being able to accomplish all the things you can do, or at least prioritize it with whatever is important for you to accomplish here.
Yeah. Am I a good multitasker? I don't think so. I think I like have 10 half-finished things. I have this animated film that's like a rough draft script. I have just like that pilot my friend and I wrote. I have a half-written short film about misophonia. That's like, if I think I just need to pick the thing I care most about and put all my energy, because it's either I'm going to like give 100% to one thing or half-ass a million things.
I see what you're saying. Do you ever go back and revisit some of the stuff you've done from years back and see what you've done back then to see how you were, what your thought process was at the time, and see how you progressed from where you are now with your acting approach or your career for that matter?
Like watch old projects.
Yeah, watch old things that you've done in the past that maybe you come across by accident, or you purposely or you intentionally go look for them to see what was your experience like at that time. I mean, it could be for various reasons why you may do it, but do you ever go back to revisit them and reflect on them, if you will?
No, I haven't. Although it is interesting, like a lot of times when you do a film, it doesn't come out for at least a year.
Yeah.
So I will go watch it, at the screening or whatever, and I'm like, I'll think about like, oh, I would have done that differently, or I should have played this scene differently, because you're always growing and learning as an actor, and
right.
So I think it's not hard for me though. I'm not like, dang, I'm just like, oh, it's cool to see that I have learned stuff and would approach this differently now. But yeah, I don't seek it out and go watch my old stuff now.
Are you one of those people too that if you work on something, didn't like it, you prefer not to go back and see it? Because I'm actually really curious for people who don't revisit their past work, if it mainly is because they just are not comfortable watching themselves, because that's a lot of the reasons I hear, or I just know the movie wasn't very good, so I have no intention to ever want to see that again, because I guess this is just me, because this is just me, but for me, it's hard for me to look back at some other stuff that I've done in the past, but I do it on purpose because I want to be able to understand what I was going through at that time. I mean, this is me speaking for myself, of course, but I'm always curious if what I'm doing, if it's even necessary to do, because if it's because a lot of people who tell me why they don't do this because it's in the past, I'm able to move on, so there's no reason for me to go back and revisit it unless it's brought to my attention, then I can reflect on it. But it's not I don't have any intention to purposely look for what I've done to see what I could have done better because I've already know what I've done so far now to be better. So, but even then, I still have that urge to look back just to see what that was like at the time for myself. But I'm wondering for yourself because you've answered my question, but I'm curious if that's one of the part of the thought process for yourself to some degree.
Is part of the thought process is to
like once you've done it, you've moved on, and therefore it's in the past, and no reason for you to want to look back at it, or at least to revisit, if you will.
No, not at all. Actually, you know what? When I'm looking for, because you have to update your reel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so recently I've been like, oh, my reel is a couple years old. Maybe I can find some stuff I've done in the last couple of years.
Right.
So right now I'm actually reaching out to a couple of directors and producers I've worked with in the last couple of years. Like, hey, is there any footage I could get to update my reel? So that's fun when you're like, because I have a reason to go back and look. And so it's arguing to be like, oh, would this be good to put on a reel? But it can be frustrating how long stuff takes because there's a couple projects that I was really excited about that I've done over the last like 2 years ago, and it's still not ready. And so that's a bummer. Or like even from 2019, I think. So, but yeah, and the other thing about looking back at work is I remember at least personal stuff that was happening in my life at that time, like what relationship I was in, how happy was I, where was I working? Like that's kind of fun. It brings you back to that time in your life. But yeah, as far as like not being able to, I know some actors are like, oh, I can't watch myself, or I never watch myself. Yeah. Like I think Johnny Depp says that. Like,
he's like, once I've done it, that's it. That's what he does.
Or some actors refuse to even watch the movie. I'm like, that seems like to each their own, but for me, that would feel really disrespectful to the entire casting crew that worked on it.
Yeah.
Be involved in a project and be like, I don't want to see your guys' work because I'm too self-conscious of my own or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I want to see everyone's work on it. And maybe it's because I'm part of this era of actors that have to self-tape so much or tape, and so we always have to watch ourselves back that I'm just kind of numb to it. Like, way past judging like how I look or whatever. So
but all right. But here's what I want to ask you just to kind of more or less close off here, because right now you seem pretty content with the way things are going for you. The way you have gone through the motions, if you will, of the highs and lows and the things that you probably didn't achieve as far as goals are concerned, but may have found other things along the way to more or less help you understand the situation better, and therefore help you learn more about yourself. That I would believe it would make you a much better person, a much more understanding person, much more patient in a lot of ways too, I would say. So I'm actually curious about how you feel about yourself now, going through all this here to where you are at this point, to see if you're happy with yourself, considering the circumstances here for you.
That's a good question. I think I was like a happier, more hopeful person when I moved to LA because I was like 22 and I was like, I'm going to be an actor. So I think I was like really positive and motivated and all that. But now I have more experience, and I think I feel more secure as far as like where my life is going, because it was hard for years to be like, doing the waitressing, bartending, and the acting thing. And so now that I have like another actual career I can be passionate about, because I love math and like logic and stuff. So I get to use that part of my brain. I think I'm am more patient and secure, and just like, I don't have any desperation. Like I need to be an actor.
Interesting.
I mean, it's kind of sad, but I think it's like, I'm a little jaded about it or burnout. So I'm not as
interesting,
but I still love it. And it's really nice. Now I think I'm happier to be in a spot where I can just do stuff I want to do and not have to do it because like, well, I need to make rent and I'm doing it with acting. So yeah, it's a really long answer. Sorry.
No, that's actually a really interesting answer, because you're in a really unique spot for me to hear what you just said, because the fact that you said you feel burnt out and then but you still love it, but you don't feel rush
burn
to
out
have
on
to.
the business side. I
Right.
think.
No, I understand what you mean by that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified because I understood with what you meant, but you're burnt out. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say, but you still have found a balance where, okay, well, I can focus on this and not have to worry about doing this to be able to compensate for me to be able to pay my rent or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting because I actually never really heard it from that perspective. So the fact that you actually gave, that answer, that's actually really, really good. So anyway, I'm serious. I thank you for that. Well, I guess so. To more or less close off here, I'm really glad that you had responded to be able to speak with me here because I mean, yes, I did like with your work in the film Normal, but when if anyone is come across the movie here, I think the one thing that I said in the review as well, because I know you said you checked it out, but it was interesting for me to see a perspective of these characters' journey where it was literally just that for me personally, and I think that everyone who has worked in that project had done a really good job and just not make the other elements that most people are used to when it comes to storytelling being the main focus here. So that's one thing I took away the most here, but I really thought that everyone worked very well together. And I had a gut feeling to some degree that every one of those actors there in the film had brought more of the personality into the role because they come from a background that they understood what the characters are going through in some way, shape, or form. And it took me. I thought about that. I think a couple of days after the fact, after I'd done the review, and after I had went over my thoughts on it. Because even after I do a review, I still kind of go off on a tangent. Where did I really say everything that I wanted to say? But
Sure.
But the point is that having seen that, and when you had made that post for sharing the story there, if there's one opportunity I can get is to talk with somebody who was on the project, then I'm glad it was you that was able to make that more or less that reach out there, if you will, that gave me the opportunity to reach out to and ask you. Because if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would have asked you, hey, would you like to be on the show?
Thanks.
Yeah,
And thanks for the review. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, no, thank you. But so for that, I want to say thank you again so much for taking the time with me. This really was a fun conversation. I wish we had more time. And honestly, I would love to have more conversations like this with you again, hopefully for a little bit longer, because I think there's a lot more that, in my opinion, I think we barely even touched the iceberg to kind of delve into further the things that I would have liked to get into with you. But is there anything that you may be able to say now as far as any upcoming projects that for sure are going to be coming down the pipeline that people can probably anticipate to be on the lookout for considering the discussion here?
Yes. I just this past weekend filmed a horror short film called Becoming of Age, and it was really fun. We shot up in the mountains in Fraser Park. And then I did another horror short film, I think in March. And it was, it's called Who Is This Man in Our House? So for some reason, this is my horror year. But there's really cool special effects in both of them. And I did another web series called Mixed Nuts like 3 years ago. And I just reached out to the director about the footage, and she said that they're still editing it. So I'm really hoping that comes out this year because it was a really fun one to work on. But yeah, those horror shorts are the most recent.
Do you know when they're expected to be released for?
The one I did this weekend, he's hoping by October for
okay.
like horror month.
In time for Halloween.
Exactly.
Okay.
So and I know the other one, they've been working on it pretty hard since we shot in March. So hopefully this year.
Okay,
perfect.
And
they're short films, so quicker than a feature.
All right. Well, I want to say again, thank you so much for giving me your time here, because this was, again, like I said before, was a lot of fun, and the door is always open for you if you ever would like to come back, especially if you want to promote the short films here. I would love to discuss with you about that and do a review as well too. So, but again, thank you so much, and until next time, cheers.
Thank you so much. You're a great interviewer.
Thank you.